Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Awesome C.O.D.Y. As usual, I'm your host, C.O.D.Y, and today we are starting a brand new theme for August of 2021, and that is awesome streaming shows. It's a weird thing. So basically what happens every week, this month, all month long, I will be talking about different shows from each of the streaming services that I have recently enjoyed or finished watching and really enjoyed. But basically that's going to be it. So of all of them, Amazon Prime Video, Apple Plus or Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, and I believe if I got all my ducks in a row, I think I'm going to do Peacock, or I'm going to do Hulu. I'm not too sure. I haven't decided yet, so that's why it's last, because I need to figure out the best ones to go through and look at. So anyways, that's going to be it. So, but first, this week, I'm going to talk about Amazon Prime Video. For the folks who know what Amazon Prime Video is, it's a streaming service bundled with the Amazon Prime subscription, but also now available as just a standalone subscription through Amazon called Prime Video, or Amazon Prime Video, depending on how you're looking at it. But most of the time, you're going to see it as Prime Video. Price-wise, I have no idea how much it costs. It's part of my Amazon Prime subscription, so I'm not too sure really what it is a month. Could be more than 10, I don't think, but, I'm not too sure. Anyways, it started at Amazon Prime Video, or it started through Amazon Prime. At first, it was a lot of just how Netflix kind of started with their streaming stuff. No real selection of original material. A lot of it was just rerun stuff from different television networks, essentially from all over the world. Mostly from stuff you'd see in your home country, as well as a sprinkling of other areas: Australia, Canada, France, India, Turkey, Italy. I think there's some Japanese programming on there too, and things like that. But you could also, eventually, they opened up to being able to stream other services through them, such as HBO and Showtime and Stars Play and Shudder. I think those are the bigger ones they had. I think they had some other ones too, but that's how it was. And then they started making their own original content. The original, I want to say it was in 2013. Oh, here's the price: $8.99 a month. I knew I could find it. $8.99 a month for just Prime Video. You could also do it through, if you have an Amazon Prime subscription for their, short shipping and all that fun stuff like that, or free shipping a lot of times, then you usually get a Prime Video through them as well. So that's pretty cool. So the video service itself started way back in 2011, I think is when it was. The originals that they started doing, I believe, was in 2013. They had a few things that they picked up, and they were shows. I mean, there was a lot of different ones. You could find on there from different services that were like kind of like reestablished series, I guess you'd say. So there's a couple different ones. I've never actually seen the ones that they were there, but they were all on April 19th of 2013. They had quite a few original content, and original content was stuff they either got from somewhere else, and that was they bought the rights to, or it was their own original production. Actually, I don't think it was later on that they started doing their own on there as well. But anyways, so they had a bunch of that stuff. They got rights through other countries, and helped bolster their catalog throughout the years. And now they're making feature films starring real, actual, actors and casts and things like that. For example, The Tomorrow War, which Joe and I talked about on the main podcast a couple weeks ago. Fantastically fun movie. And from there, they've been a bunch of other stuff, a lot of TV shows. One of the ones I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to make them quick. I'm not going to dive into them too much, maybe 5-10 minutes, or 5 minutes each or so on them. But basically, they revived some fan favorite shows. They got shows from outside the country and made them hugely popular here in America. One being like Fleabag, for example. Fantastic show, only 2 seasons. Amazing comedy drama or dramedy. I don't know if they really say it. They listed here as a comedy. There's some drama in it too. Excellent show. Highly recommend if you're into that kind of thing. And you should definitely be into that. So the 4 things that I have to talk about. I'll start with the one that they saved that I have on my list. Then I'll go on to an older one, and then 2 newer one. Well, I say older one. I say older one, but like they're both fairly new. I try to pick newer stuff. When I say older, it's like a year before the other one, but whatever. So basically, this was my thought on my Amazon, as I try to pick stuff that I've seen all of, but also picked one that's an older property and a middle property and newer property and the newest property. And you'll understand when I go by these in a minute here what I'm talking about. And one of these, actually 2 of these I talked about already. One of these I know I talked about recently, and that's what spurred me to think of this topic for this month. Anyhow, so the first show I'm going to talk about is The Expanse. The Expanse I've talked about before on this here podcast as well as the main podcast. It is a book adaptation originally on Sci.Fi. And this one has a weird history television-wise, because the reason, and I'll get into that in a minute. So The Expanse, for the folks who don't know what The Expanse is, and without having to go back and listen to me rattle on again about it, is a science fiction show based on a series of books by the name of The Expanse. And those books, there are a total of 8 of them now. 8 main books. There's 6 novellas, I believe. And I'm sorry. I read this right. There are 8 books out right now. The most recent one came out the beginning of 2019. There'll be one later. Well, apparently it's supposed to be out later this year. I'm not too sure if that's true or not. And the last one in the series will be out in beginning of 2022. So essentially 5 months or so between the 2 last books. There the novellas, there's a short story, 2 short stories, and then there are 6 novellas. I was right, 6, and they all have to do with a certain event or character's event, a sub character or a lesser focused on narrative character, and talks more about them. Also, just talks about the history of the characters themselves throughout. It's pretty cool. So The Expanse had a tremendous showing. It was very popular, which is what the history of the show was, and how it's weird is it was massive on Sci-Fi. The first season came out of nowhere. Not many people were talking about it beforehand, except for the folks who had read the books, and they were like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for this!" And it was It was a really good way. It's one of the best examples of taking a source material and being able to do as much as possible within the constraints of smaller budgets, but also just being on television. And there's a lot of exposition and a lot of things you can't really do extremely easily on television or just media outside of books, because you have narratives and you can explain things in different ways. It's pretty hard to do sometimes, especially with elaborate sci-fi stories like this one. But they did an amazing job. They capsulized quite a bit of it. They kind of left some characters out of it, but in a non-important way. But they got as much as you wanted to in there. It was pretty awesome. ran second season massive. Everyone was really super pumped for the second season. It went gangbusters. It was a massive hit. Everyone's like, oh, this is going to be, it's like Sci-Fi's next Battlestar Galactica, their version of Game of Thrones. Everyone was throwing all these speculations of how amazingly popular the show is going to be, how huge it was going to be for Sci-Fi as well as just the channel Sci-Fi, but also Sci-Fi television, because they're really pushing the limits of capabilities on television. The graphics, the special effects, phenomenal for being on television. Actually, it's phenomenal for being even compared to some movies out there. And it was amazing. And everyone was like, oh, okay, cool. This is pretty awesome. And everyone's really digging it. And it's massive. Third season's coming out. It's got a show, like a preview show thing with Adam Savage, who is in love with the show. It had all these things like podcasts that were popping up about it. All this stuff was just huge numbers. I mean, like, I'm looking at the viewers in millions. The first season obviously was probably the highest ones. The other seasons were pretty steady for what it looked like. But apparently Sci-Fi just wasn't happy with it, and they decided to scrap it, I believe, a few episodes before the end of the third season. I'm trying to find the notes here real quick. Yeah, so they, it doesn't say here when it was, but basically they the powers be at Sci-Fi decided that they weren't going to continue going forward. The show was cut off. I'm trying to think of what it was. I'm trying to remember where it was at. I'm looking at my notes here and I don't really find it. Essentially, they were hot on the heels of it was coming out. They must have made this decision probably before the third season premiered, but instead of shooting the show down, they stuck with it. They let it go. They wanted the viewership. They wanted everything like going, but they basically canceled it right before the end of the third season, and the fans were ravenous. They were like, what are you doing? This is gotta be one of your most popular shows. The problem is it wasn't Game of Thrones numbers. It wasn't Battlestar Galactica numbers, I'm pretty sure. And it was very expensive. The show's very ambitious, and it just didn't really work out for them, so they canceled it. Amazon steps in after a big old petition about saving, like the fan petition went out, and it was all over. Like, they lobbied Amazon, they lobbied Netflix. I won't even say they flew like a plane around with a banner around the Netflix headquarters, I think, if I remember reading correctly. All sorts of crazy shit went on, right? It was around Amazon. Yeah, it was around Amazon Studios. So it was massive. Amazon finally announces that they have picked it up for a fourth season with an option, obviously, to continue on going on. It did huge numbers. I'm going to guess they probably had a lot of hype behind it. It even had celebrities backing it, like Will Wheaton, George R.R. Martin, Patton Oswalt. There's a bunch of different people that were all kind of like behind the campaign on social media and all over the web of all sorts, Twitter especially. And so it did picked up. They did a really good job. They announced that they would do a fifth season, and then they renewed the show again for a sixth and final season. And it was, pretty smash hit, wasn't half bad. They did. I mean, I say half bad. It was a really good show. They kept it going. They were able to get a lot. I think pretty much all cast members back that weren't dead in the show, or characters would come back with their cast members, and they did a really good job. The special effects actually didn't even dip. A lot of people were worried about that. They did an amazing job. If anything, they actually improved a lot of it. They added more things to it, and it boasted really well. Fourth season was amazing. Fifth season was phenomenal. They did a terrific job, And it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with the sixth season, because they thought they were going to have a more of a reveal about something in the end of the fifth season that was in the books. But so far they've done an amazing job of really, without losing a whole lot, you get all of the books so far. All 8 books are in basically involved in the first 5 seasons, or the 5 seasons. I don't say the first 5, the only 5 out right now. Without cutting out a lot of anything, there was. I mean, not gonna say there was fluff in there, but there's some stuff you could leave out that still would work, and it did. And they told a very successful way of telling the story. I think they did a tremendous job at it, and I think they're still doing a tremendous job at it. And I'm super excited for the 6th season, which I believe, I don't know if they actually have a technical date. I'll show you what I saw here when I went to list of episodes, looking at the future. That is, I don't believe they actually have a 6th season premiere date. I saw a little blurb about it. Hold on, I'm going to look it up real quick. I'm talking here. I want to say it wasn't until the beginning of 2022 when they were tentatively getting ready to release it, I think. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think I am. And I don't see it on here. I think I saw it somewhere else on a news article where they were talking about the release of it. And I know they were filming seasons 5 and 6 together, like basically back to back, so they could get it going, because they knew because they announced that it was going to be the 6th and final season, so they could wrap up the story the proper way. For the show, not so much for the books, because the books, they have 2 whole other books to go into, and like I said, the 6th season is going to be the 8th book, because they cover the first 7 and a little bit of the 8th. Actually, no, not even a little bit of the 8th, because the 8th jumps to a different portion of it. Yeah, so in books 1 through 7 were encapsulated into seasons 1 through 5 very, very well. So that's The Expanse, available now. All 5 seasons are available on Amazon Prime Video, so check them out. Next up, Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan was a show that debuted in 2018, stars John Krasinski as the titular character John Ryan from the Tom Clancy books. Jack Ryan is one of the biggest characters that Tom Clancy wrote about in many of his books, and even written past that. He's been featured in movies. He's been played by several different characters, including Alec Baldwin, Harrison Ford, Ben Affleck, and Chris Pine in different movies. And then most recently, like I said, the television program Jack Ryan, which is pretty cool because, it's a pretty awesome show. It's a very politically driven show, but it's also a very intensely driven show. What I mean by that is there's a lot of really intense drama moments in it, especially in season 2. There's just so much going on in it. There was a lot of different speculations of when or characters kind of branching out of this, because there's another character named John. I was going to say John Walker. That's not right at all. John Clark, who is in a movie now with played by Michael B. Jordan, that could have massively been a huge connection to this show and spurred off a Rainbow Six stuff. We'll see what happens with that film series. But needless to say, they're not conjoined any way. But the show itself, it is a military drama, action drama, I should say. Extremely well written, extremely well acted, performed amazingly. John Krasinski is phenomenal in this show. And the best part is he's not this super soldier dude. He's just an analyst that is really smart, that kind of basically gets drug into some wicked shit because he is on the front lines getting this done. And it's just, it's phenomenal the way they did with this show. I've only read one of the books, 2 of the books. Sorry, the Jack Ryan books. These ones don't really go by the books, because the books are set in further back times, not like medieval times, but they're set in the late 70s, early 80s. Actually, I guess the first one is in the 80s, right? Hunt for October is in the 80s because it's during the Cold War. Anyhow, this is a more modern take on it. It's a lot more advanced. There's modern military stuff in it, modern climate control in it, political climate, I should say, and different things like that. It's pretty neato, pretty fun. That's about it for Jack Ryan. First 2 seasons are available on Amazon Prime Video. They are consisting of both seasons have 13 episodes in them. All really good. Third season was announced in April, right before the premiere of this. No, way before. They announced before the production of the second season was done that they're making a third season. And then October of 2019 is when the second season premiered on Amazon Prime to, I think, pretty rave reviews, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong with that, but it did pretty well. The reception is pretty good, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it was nominated for a ton of awards for something that's not as widely seen. I think with the growing popularity of John Krasinski being outside of just The Office, Jim Halpert, of course, he, with the success of like A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part 2 and all the other things that he's doing with his life, I think the popularity of this is right where it needs to be, I think. Again, I don't know the numbers because streaming services have a hard time giving you those numbers. But, it's really popular. I know that, like I said, they announced the third season. They're hot on making, I think they actually might be close. I don't know if production started on it. I think last time I saw it, they were close to wrapping production. But COVID obviously has happened a lot of delays on a lot of things, and this is, I know, one of them. Especially because of how they have to work with travel and international stuff like that. But it's pretty cool. A lot of really good characters in this show, and just, I mean, amazing work done by everybody involved, and pretty awesome. So that's Jack Ryan, available on Amazon Prime Video, season 1 and 2. Next up, I've talked about this before a little bit. The Boys. The Boys is a property based on a comic book series written by Garth Ennis and drawn by Derek Robertson. Show is very violent. It's not for the faint of heart. I believe the third season is to premiere later this year, I think. I know they've even done they've shown some production stuff in casts and stuff like that. They even announced like a third or a spin-off show, which is insane, on there. It's pretty cool what they're doing with it. The show itself, tremendous quality, and again, I'm going to say this, it's not for the faint of heart. It is very violent, it's very sexualized, it's a very mature show, and it's based on content that's very mature. And believe it or not, there's actually some of it's toned down in the first season, ramped up in the second season. But it's tremendous. The comic book is great too, just like the Expanse books were fantastic. The Jack Ryan books are fantastic. The Boys by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson are phenomenal books. They go in a little more. There's a story-wise, a lot of it's very close, but it's like a retelling in a way, but more of a modern day. The books themselves, not that they were like, they're not archaic. They're extremely well done books. They came out in 2000 and, let me get the exact year, 6, and then wrapped in 2012. So ran for 6 years in comic book years, which is a long time. They had a total of 72 issues, which is a ton. And, I mean, there's a lot of stories to tell in there, but it's really the characters that they're really taking, and they're making it more to the modern day, because in 2006, even in 2012, the internet was still a very naive and closed-in space, where now it's goddamn everywhere. It's so, I mean, that's a huge thing. And it's like I said, it's done extremely well. Everybody in it is fantastic. It's brought in a huge plethora of fan base to it. The characters, again, did very, very well. Some of them have even done like an amazing job bringing a new life to the characters. The one thing, if I had to criticize it, was or is the main protagonists of The Boys. So Billy Butcher and his crew, Mother's Milk and the female and Frenchie and all these ones. They, other than Huey, they really are lacking a lot of backstory. Now, in the third season, or second season, they dive more into it quite a bit, which is really good. And I had that. I think I even said this in after the first season to Joe. The first season had a tremendous characterization of a lot of things, but they didn't really focus a whole lot on the boys, other than Huey and a little bit of Butcher until the end when really it kind of came out. I was focused on a lot of the heroes, which I understand is limited how many episodes you can squeeze things into and things like that. And there's a lot of it that they could have expanded on with more episodes. But again, cost-wise and an unknown property in the eyes of a lot of people. I mean, they did 13 episodes. I shouldn't say they didn't do a whole lot of it. They did 13 episodes per season, which is a ton nowadays because of production costs and getting all these people to be in this, because there's a tremendous amount of amazing actors in this. Carl Urban, Anthony Starr, I'm spacing on Huey's first name. His last name's Quaid. It's Randy's son. Jack Quaid. Good Lord. There's Laz Alonso. There's Tomer Kaplan. Karen Fukuhara. I mean, there's a ton of really good people in it. A lot of recognizable faces in it as well, which is really cool. But they did an amazing job, and I think they did, like I said, second season, they did a lot better of bringing in some of the other stuff, like some of the characters that didn't really shine in the first, or backstories didn't shine in the first season. They did a good job coming in, but that's not a thing, not a reason not to watch it. I just wish they would dive more into that, and they do a little bit, but I wish they would like diverge, go into that, come out and do another one. I think the one of my favorite things they did in this was when they diverted and they went into A Train more. It could have done more, but it's all right. They went into the deep and being exiled into out into Ohio. I can't remember where they put his ass. Anyways, things like that, and just kind of expanded on more. But I understand why they didn't, because there's a lot to the show and a lot going on, and it's just it'd be a huge thing. But I think that'd be pretty fun. And next season, season 3, actually has Jason Eccles from Supernatural fame coming in, which is pretty cool. They announced his character, and should be pretty fun characterization coming into it, I think. And maybe I'll talk about that one another time. But yeah, that's The Boys. First 2 seasons are available on Amazon Prime. 13 episodes each, total of 26 episodes. I'm sorry, no, I am mistaken about that. It is 8 episodes each. I was thinking the other ones. So 8 episodes is 16 episodes each, or total 8 episodes. They could have expanded to 13. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Could have expanded to 13, but I mean, they got the business done. The best part is each season is continuing the main story. They elaborate on more of it, and they kind of bring you away from the main story with different characters and things like that, so they can kind of expand on that main story quite a bit more. And the season finales of both seasons, phenomenal. It's just, they're tremendously done. I couldn't say more pleasant things about those two, because they leave you like, oh my goodness, please give me more of this right now. And they did a good job of it. So kudos to everybody involved in that. And it's a pretty awesome book, if you ask me. Last one, and I left this one for the last because I talked about quite a bit before on another episode, is Invincible, animated adult animated cartoon. I have to stress the adult animated cartoon on this because at front, without looking at the trailer, just like looking at stills. Well, actually, if you look at some stills, you'll notice it's not really for kids. But this one has uber amount of violence, sex. I mean, all sorts of the best parts about making content and using the best source material. One of the best like superhero books out ever was Invincible. I say that because it's over now, but it's tremendous and everyone should really read it if you get a chance. But yeah, they did a good job adapting it. They did a good job of adding extra stuff into it as well. And another one, they left you with a massive cliffhanger at the end of season 1, and it was tremendously done. The animation at times was a little bit rough, but again, budget-wise and speediness of doing this, animation's not exactly the thing. But I think with the popularity of the first season, I really think the budgets will be lifted quite a bit, and I think they're gonna really step it up, especially if you saw the teaser at the end of the first season of what's to come upcoming in Invincible. There's tremendous going. I mean, the world's going to expand. The scope of season 1, just like in the books, is very narrow, and it's encapsulated with just the life and times of Mark Grayson becoming invincible. Both the ability to be invincible as well as his superhero persona invincible, and then they announced that has been renewed for a second and third season, which I think is going to help them with cost-wise because they can really get a lot of that done. But they did an amazing job with it. I'm not going to say it didn't take away from anything. I just think they could have done things a little more, or they could add more. Not they could do the animation better. I mean, they could, but that's neither here nor there. They can add a lot more into it with more of a budget and less constraints, and the fact that it's popular, and the fact that really going forward past the first season, there's a lot more to happen. Other worlds, new types of characters, new types of aliens, and other threats and other heroes to be brought in and just enjoyed by all. So yeah, that's it. First season is available on Amazon. 8 episodes in the first season. They go by quick. They are about 40-something minutes each. The final episode, final 2 episodes really, but the final episode itself is just amazing performance. The show opens up in a great way, and the end of the first season is tremendous, and it's amazingly done. And I couldn't be happier with what we got out of them, and I can't wait for more. It's just going to be that much better. But yeah, that's it for the Invincible. That's it for Amazon Prime Video this week. Next week, I'll be talking about Apple TV Plus, which will be, as of right now, 3 shows. I'm going to look at doing another one, but I think the 3 I'm going to do are Ted Lasso, For All Mankind, and I believe Mythic Quest will be my 3rd one, and I may throw another one I don't know just yet. But I know those are the 3 I'm going to be talking about, and I'll talk a little bit more about those next week when I talk about Apple TV Plus on this year's theme of awesome streaming services. But that's it for this week's episode of The Awesome with Cody. As usual, I'm your host, Cody, or was your host, Cody, today. And like I always say at the end of these, let's be awesome.